Hello everyone, welcome back to the 2018 Granny Square Crochet Along. Today we're making this C2C or corner to corner musical note. It is Saxophone Day, World or National Saxophone Day. All these crazy days that have come up on this website that me and my sister found. So, you know, just thought it gave us some inspiration for some squares and some ideas of what to do. We have another fun day coming up tomorrow, so stay tuned for that tomorrow. I didn't think I wanted to design a saxophone, but I thought a musical note is doable. So this musical note is in honour of Saxophone Day and designed by my own fair hands. So we have done c2c squares a little bit in the past. I think we've probably done 4 or 5 now. So there are several videos on our channel showing you how to do them and taking you through step by step with all the colour changes, how to use bobbins, which is basically just balls of wool or wound up little balls of yarn. So for instance here, the black, you ideally need 2 ends, working ends of that yarn, because if not you've got to carry it through, which does work as well. You can do either, and also you can see there's kind of these sections of red where you have to carry it through or have separate working ends of yarn. So that's what we're going to do. I will put links in the description below of the other videos we've done in C2C, because I'm not going to take you through every single colour change today. It does take a long time to do that, and I'm not going to do that today because we have, as I said, we have shown you it in a lot of detail in the past, which has been fun to do. But I will put the chart up for you so you can see how that's done and continue to work on that. I will get you started. I'll show you how to start your rows. I'll show you how to start your new colour and colour change, and then I will be showing you how to do the decrease rows when we start to make it square. If all of this sounds completely alien to you, you've never done a C2C square before, then I do suggest that maybe you have a look at the video tutorial when I did a diagonal corner to corner, when it's literally just 2 colours, 2 triangles of colour, and you can really get the hang of how to do a corner to corner square with that video. So I will link that one below as well. Do start on that one if you've never done it before, and then come back to this, and hopefully you'll have a good grasp on how to do it. So with all of that, I'm going to stop waffling, I'm going to grab a cup of tea, and we're going to get started on this square. So I'm going to show you how to start the C2C, and then I'm going to show you how to do the colour change, and I am going to kind of get you started on all of that and then leave you with the graph to continue, or the chart, so that you can continue. We have done a lot or several C2Cs this year, so I will put a link in the description below of to those other videos so that you can watch those back if you need further help to continue your square. Okay, so far on mine I've got to this point, so I've got my musical note and I've just got these last few rows to do, and I'm going to use that to show you how to decrease. Okay, and then I will leave you to get on with it. So what we're going to do first of all is we start with our slip knot, and then we chain 6. Okay, and then in your 4th stitch from the hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, you're going to do a double crochet, and then you're going to do a double crochet in each of the next 2 chains, and then you will end up with what we call a block. The c2c is made up of blocks, and this is what we class as one block. Okay, so while we are working up from rows 1 to 9, we are increasing. Every row gets 1 square bigger. So we're going to increase, and when we do those increase rows, we need to chain 6. Okay, and then as before, do a double crochet in the last 3 chains of the 6. Oops. Okay, so 3 double crochets there. And now this is where the fun bit comes in at the start of each increase row. We need to have this block attached to this block, so not just in this corner either. So what we're going to do is, you've got your 2 blocks in front of you like so. You're going to take this first one and flip it up. Okay, and then you'll see when you bring this next to, you'll see that you have on your first row, you have, or as it looks to you now, you'll have horizontal stitches, and on the current block you have vertical stitches, and that's how your c2c will go. Each row will alternate. So what you want to do is find this chain space here, and you want to slip stitch in there, and that brings this block here right next to you. Okay, and now working the corner to corner, we're basically making steps. So on this one we want to make another block and put on top of this one to make our steps. So you're going to chain 3 this time. So this is an internal block, so we don't need to have that chain 6 to start with. We just need the 3 to bring it up to the height, and then we're going to work 3 double crochets in this chain space. Okay, and that chain 3 that we did at the start will, on the next row, will act as our chain 3 space that we have here. That's why we only need the chain 3, because we don't need to have 6 to turn. So there we go. So you can now see what I mean about having these steps. Okay, so what you need to remember is, on an outside block you need to have 6 chains. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, 6 on an outside block and 3 on an inside block. Okay, that's the most important thing to remember. So you would now chain 6 again, because we're on the outside, and then you would do your 3 double crochets into those last 3 chains. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you for the next stitch. Okay, so we have this now, and you can see that this is kind of a bit out on its own, so we need to join this. So once again, we take all of this that we have on this side, we flip it upwards, and then we bring this over and slip stitch into this chain space. Okay, like so. So now you can see that we've got 3 blocks on this outside edge here, if I can move my hook. So we have 3, 1, 2, 3 blocks here, and you can see that the stitches alternate from being vertical or horizontal and then vertical. So we have 3, and we will have 3 on this side eventually, but we need to do those next 2 steps, as I class them as steps. So it's sometimes helpful to fold your block down. So we need, this is an inside block, so just 3 chains, and then your 3 double crochets in that chain space. Okay, and then you can see it's right next to the next block, so just go straight into that chain space and do a slip stitch. And then once again, it's an internal inside block, So you just need to chain 3 and then do your 3 double crochets, okay? And then you will need to do this 5 rows. So do your next block and then you can do your increase and do it so that each side has 5 stitches. So 5 along here, 5 along here, and when you count the steps you'll have 5 steps as well. And I will see you once I have my 5 rows. Okay, so I have my 5 rows done. So we have 5 blocks down, 5 blocks across, and 5 steps going up. Okay, now as we start doing the design on this, we will need to know which is the right way up and which is the front and which is the back, so that we can carry our yarns nice and neatly. So what you want to do is make sure that the block you've just finished, that you have your loop coming out to this side and at the bottom, and then this bottom right hand block, which will be, your stitches will be horizontal, they'll be going across, that is your front bottom right hand corner. So grab a stitch marker or a piece of yarn and just weave it through those stitches so that it stays on the front, and then just pop that in there, and then whenever this gets moved around, twisted around, whether it's like that or like so, you can turn it over, see that stitch marker, and you will know, turn it, and that is the way up it should be, because you've got your stitch marker in the bottom right. Okay, but if you're just doing stripes or blocks, it doesn't matter so much where your bottom corner is. When you're doing an actual design, then obviously it's quite crucial to know whether you're working this way or this way. Okay, so we need to change colour for the next row to do 2 blocks of our musical note colour. Don't panic, I'm not going to use black because I know that's quite difficult to see. I'm going to do it in grey. So leave a nice tail for sewing in, and then pop your hook into your loop, and then pop this loop through that loop. Okay, so they're joined together. Pull this background colour down nice and tightly. You will probably have to pull it in again later. And then you're going to do your stitch as normal. So do your, because we're still increasing, do your chain 6 and then your 3 double crochet, and I will join you afterwards. Okay, so here we are. Oh, I haven't quite finished my block there. There we go. So I've got my block finished. You can see it's all a bit loose around here. Okay, so I'm just going to pull the grey tail down and tighten that. Pull the orange tail down, tighten that. And then I'm going to flip up these blocks just as before and join into here with my grey. But before I do that, I'm going to make sure that I'm on the back. So look, this is the back because there's no stitch marker there. And what I'm going to do is bring up this orange because I need to carry that across the next block. Okay, so bring that up, and then do your slip stitch over that, or around that. There we go. Okay, so there's your slip stitch, and this piece of yarn is inside that loop there. Okay, so you can see there's a strand here. This will carry, but you will pull it a bit tighter when you come to use it. Okay, so then what you're going to do is just lay this piece of yarn across the back of that block. You can see that there. Just lay it across, and then you're going to do your next block just as normal, holding that piece of yarn, and then you're going to work under and over it. So you're going to work around it and just hide that piece of yarn at the back. Okay, and then we're going to do the rest of this row, which will be 4 blocks, because remember we have the same amount as the row, so we've done 2 already for row 6, so we need 4 more. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop this yarn down to use when we come back to this end. So drop that down. I just like to bring it around my hook so that I'm not getting it tangled and it stays at the back of my work. and doesn't go to the front. Okay, and then you're going to just give this background colour a little tug to make sure it's nice and snug and not loose, and then I'm just going to pull that through that loop there, pull that down, and then I'm going to go into this next block and do a slip stitch. Okay, there we go, not much to see. And then you can do the rest of your blocks in this colour. You could continue to carry every colour and not use more ends, but as you get further on you will need to use a separate end, because you'll have some musical note colour up here. If I show you on here, you will have some musical note colour up here, and you'll have some down here. So if I turn this over, you can see that what we've done is we've just done these 2 blocks here. Okay, I know the black's hard to see clearly. We've just done these first 2 blocks here, so then you're going to do the next 4 blocks. Okay, so when you're up here for these musical note colour, you will need to use a separate end of yarn. But as I said in our previous corner to corner videos, there are we've done instructions where we take you through every colour change, and we tell you about how many bobbins, as it's known, or colour ends that you need. So because we've done that a few times in the past, I'm not going to take you through every single colour change or carrying your yarn on this video. Okay, so you will need to finish this row 6, with your 4 background colours, and then you'll start the next row. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the chart now and explain to you how that works, and then I will leave that up for you to carry on with. So unfortunately my printer still is not working, so I've got some very rough chart here. I understand this is very rough, and I haven't even got the right amount of squares. I've only done 8 across instead of 9, which was not very clever of me. But I just want to show you the general idea of how these charts work. Okay, so I will put the correct chart on screen, and it will have all the coloured blocks, but obviously I can't do that right now. I need to use the computerized image rather than a printed image. So how we work on the C2C is, if you see down here, this is our starting block. So let me just so we started here, okay, and we can see the arrow says we work down. Well, we just do that block, and then we did these 2 blocks working upwards. You've got an arrow here that shows you which way to work. So we worked this block and this block, okay, and all the time we were doing 6 chains. Okay, we're doing 6 chains on all of these, so, and these ones here. Okay, if I bring that in the screen, there we go. So all of these that work downwards, when we start from this side, we do 6 chains, and down here, when it works upwards, we do 6 chains. And that's because, as I told you before, when we're working here, we want 1, 2, 3 chains for the side, and then 3 chains for the top, and then we do our 3 stitches. Okay, so that's how that works. And then obviously inside we just need to do those 3 chains, or that way. Okay, so that's what we've been doing so far. And then when you get to halfway, when you get this one, okay, so when you get to halfway, which will be row 9, this one here, it all changes. Okay, so you do these blocks. Bear in mind I've only got 8, not 9, and this says it goes upwards, but actually on your 9th block it will come down. So you will do your 9 blocks and you will end up down here. Okay, you'll end up in this bottom square here, and that's when it changes. So I'm going to put the chart up on screen, leave you to work all of this, work that diagonal of 9 stitches. You're going to work your longest row, which is those 9 stitches. And then when you've done that row of 9 and you end up here, then I will come back and show you how we work up this side, because as you can see it gets bigger, so every row corresponds to how many blocks there are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so you've got 9 blocks, or you will have on your biggest row, and then it gets smaller, so we have 8 and then 7 and 6 and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so when you've done your very biggest row of 9 blocks, I will come back and show you how we're going to work the rest of these rows. Okay, and don't forget, if you do need to have some extra help on any of these colour changes and using bobbins and you know, using more than one ball of wool for each colour, then have a look in that description below, and I will put some links to some other videos that we've made which will talk you through all of those colour changes and help you with that. Okay, so I'll see you in a little while. Okay, so for the purposes of this video, I have just undone my grey. I've taken my grey out, and we're just going to imagine that we're doing a small 5x5 square, so that I can show you how to finish the square off. Okay, so you should be in this bottom corner here. In this bottom corner, you will have all your pattern that you've been doing. So as on the chart, you're in this bottom corner. Okay, so for the next row, you're going to work upwards. But if we continue and do our chain 6 as we did previously, we will end up with another block next to it here. And we don't want another block, we just want 5 blocks. Okay, so the next place we need to work is in this space just here. Let me just move that. So we want to work in this space just here, and we want to do steps upwards, because if you remember, we've got 5, well, there's 5 blocks here, and the next row we will only want 4, because the next row we're going to square this off and make this so it'll be getting smaller. Okay, so your next row will be 8 blocks. Okay, and your first block will start here, because we want to come up this side. So if we look at this chart, here we go. So we're in the bottom here, and we want to come up the side and across the top. So it will sort of start going like this. Okay, so to get from here to here, we don't do our chain 6 anymore. What we're going to do is turn our work, and then we are going to do a slip stitch into the top of each stitch along that last block to bring us over to the place we want to be to make our next block. So 4 slip stitches along there, the last one being in that chain space. There we go. So I'm now in this chain space, and if I turn my work this way so I can work more easily, I'm here and ready that I can do a block just as if it were an inside block. So I can just chain 3, and then I can do my 3 double crochets. Okay, and with colour changes and working into the next block, it's exactly the same as it would be when you're increasing. The only difference is this side, and then if you look, this is where we've just worked. So this is where we were, down in this bottom corner, and we slip stitched across these stitches, and it doesn't really show. Maybe a tiny bit thicker than the rest, than this stitch here. Maybe a tiny bit thicker, but there's not really anything to stick out like a sore thumb. Sore thumb, she says, having a plaster on. So you just continue to work down your row as always, doing your colour changes, doing your colour carries, whatever you need to do for the pattern that you're following. And then I'll show you what happens when you get to the other end. You're going to do exactly the same, but I will show you that. In fact, I'll show you on my one that I've already got part way. So let's put this aside and let's do that thing that I've always wanted to do. Oh, here's one I made earlier. So here is one I made earlier, or partially made. So I don't have many rows left to go. So what I need to do is I'm here. So I finished this block just here, and I slip stitched into the block next to, as you can see. Red doesn't show up very well, which is why I wasn't doing this one for the video. So I've just slip stitched into this block next to it. So what I'm going to do is turn my work, and then I'm going to slip stitch across into each of those stitches. Oops. Okay, just to bring me along to the side and where I need to be. Okay, and then the last one goes into this chain space here. Okay, and then I can turn my work and I can continue to work this next block, just like so. And that's how you decrease and start to square your block off. Just carry on as normal. I don't have any more colour changes in this square now, so I cut off all the ends. As soon as I'd finished with one bobbin, with one end of yarn, I cut it off and done my stitch badly there. I cut it off and just got rid of it, so that I wasn't dealing with lots of ends. I wasn't having lots of balls of yarn attached to my work, and I'm just down to this one end now to finish my square. So just continue as so until you get to your very last row, which is your very last corner, and you will have one block, and that will be your last block. To slip stitch across and then do your very last block of colour. So I will see you when I have my very last block here. So once again, I will pop that chart up on the screen for you to see and follow. So there we go. So again, I'm just going to turn my work and I'm going to slip stitch across and do these 1, 2, 3, and then I'll slip stitch, do 2, slip stitch, my 1. Okay, I'll see you soon. And here we go. I've just done my last block and slip stitch to the block next to, and you can see that my loop is here. Now if you are totally happy with that, you can just fasten off in that space. I know some people don't like finishing sort of in the middle of a side, so if you prefer, you can turn your work and then you could slip stitch across this last side, and then you will have your yarn finishing in that corner. Now I'm not really too fussy about where I finish my work really. Wherever you finish, you've still got to sew it in, but just to show you, you can finish there if you prefer, and then just secure that, fasten off and cut your yarn. And there we go. Let's get rid of that. So let's pull that through. You can see I've got some ends from my yarn, not too many, This is quite a good one for only having 2 colours and not too many bobbins and ends. So this is the front. You can see it's a bit distorted. So all you need to do is just give it a bit of a pull, shape it out, and just square it off. Because as we work on the diagonal, it's a bit like if you've ever had a jacket or a skirt or something that's sewn on the bias, which means it's diagonal, and it just sort of always has that sort of swish to it. So you just have to kind of just pull it about a bit, square it up, and it does square quite easily, but it does automatically go into that sort of what's it called, a rhomboid shape or whatever. So there we go. That is the pattern completed. I'm just going to tuck all these ends under so you can see it as it is, just in case you haven't made this yet and you're just waiting to see the final result. There we go. A musical note for Saxophone Day. Who knew such a day existed? So a musical note for all you musical lovers. I'm sure most of us like a bit of music. So what kind of music are you into? Let me know below in the comments. I'd be interested to know what's your favourite kind of music or instrument. So this is our corner to corner musical note today, and I do rather love it. I know I kind of made it and designed it, but I do rather like it myself. So I can't wait to see your squares in the group as always. So remember to upload a photo in the Facebook group, and the link for that is below in the description. So I'm going to get to work on sewing in all these ends and bid you farewell until next time, and remind you to just keep hooking and don't let your tea get cold.